walk us through the themes of the conference, the themes that we're getting out at the press conference that was held yesterday, and also how this ties to the recent Supreme Court hearing that just came down a couple of weeks ago regarding parental rights.
Well, okay, so the Supreme Court hearing, I think you're referring to the one that's a few days ago, where they said that Donald Trump was justified in firing around 1,400 DOE employees. Now, the Department of Education doesn't really have very much to do with the actual education of children. If you want to compare that and the challenge that was posed, that rose to the level of the Supreme Court, with the Chicago Public Schools, who spent too much money on illegals and thus had to fire 1,400 teachers, including special ed teachers, just the other day, I think that that comparison is pretty stark. But what we're arguing is that because of Merrick Garland and this letter that classified parents as domestic terrorists that went out during COVID, and Merrick Garland then called on the FBI to treat these parents as if they were domestic terrorists, that resulted in a catastrophic series of events for several of these parents who all they were doing was trying to look out for their children, trying to question some of the woke agenda that we have in our schools today, or some of the COVID mask policies that were instituted in their schools that were actually adversely affecting and in some cases really harming children. We have one parent whose child was forced to wear a mask when he took the mask off and threw it in the trash in the nurse's office. They made him fish it out of the trash and put that mask back on his face. So these things, and by the way, then the parents were then targeted by their communities, by their school boards, who called for their firing, called for their businesses to be shut down. And so many of these parents have been almost irreparably harmed. They need some sort of restitution. But bigger than that, Jack, you know, this set a precedent in our schools to consider parents expendable and disposable in terms of the education of their children. And that's absolutely not true. Parents are the number one indicator. Parental involvement is the number one indicator of academic success for their kids. And so we need parents more involved, not less involved. Schools that try to eliminate parents or sideline parents in the conversation about their children's education, those places are actually seeking the destruction of those children. That is not what we do in the United States. And I know that we're 40th in the world of 40 developed nations for education. The easiest way to start turning this around is to put parents back inside the schools, inside the classrooms, inside the conversation about the education of their children.
I couldn't agree more. And over here we also saw there was that Mahmoud case that came down sort of the end of June regarding the LGBTQ themed books and religious freedom concerns, because there was this group of parents in Montgomery County, Maryland. I'm from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, so that's why I think about it. It's right outside Philly. And you're a Pennsylvania person too, am I right? Am I right or am I wrong about that?
Pittsburgh,
there you go. See, I knew it. I can always tell. But this is Montgomery County, Maryland, and this is right outside of D.C., where even those parents, by the way, so this is like the liberal D.C. bubble, they were objecting because this LGBTQ information was going to their kids, was going in at such a level they didn't want it in there. Took it all the way to the Supreme Court. By the way, Mahmoud, as you can imagine, these were not Christian families. Many of them, by the way, Muslim. So you had Muslim and Christian families saying, we don't want this. We're going to take this all the way up. We're going to fight it. And they got it overturned. And the Supreme Court actually did rule that parents' religious freedoms were burdened by the school district's policy of requiring students to engage with those books, issued that preliminary injunction, meaning parents can opt the kids out of those lessons. And This was a 6-3 decision. There's going to be obviously other cases involving this, but huge win for not just parental rights, but also for religious freedoms and the intersection of those with the public education space.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could see it as big a win as many are trying to categorize it. In fact, what it says is that they have the right to opt their children out, but that pedagogy, that gay and transgender pedagogy, will in fact be taught in the schools, which then codifies it as something that is valuable, even though it's rife with lies. And so even though these parents can opt their children out, then what? In fact, I wrote an op-ed about this. Then what? So those children then become ostracized. They don't have the information that the other children have, whatever kind of information about gay sex or whatever you want to call it, right? And so those children then are integrated back into the classroom. And what? Are we going to allow the children who saw the material to then demonstrate the material for the children who were opted out? I mean, for the parents who send their children to this school for education, to be forced to opt out of something that is so not educational is a travesty, and I find it very sad. We ought to get back to teaching truth in our schools, and that includes traditional values, I'm sorry to say, because those are time-tested.
Well, no, I think that's a great point, and you're right. This obviously isn't something that's going to be solved just by parents continuing to be involved. So, and this is, well, I've had you on about this as well, so it's kind of a layup question. But so let's say you are a parent out there and you're very concerned about your kids being involved with this. Also, you're just concerned with society in general and how we're raising the next generation. What options are there for you to take proactive steps so that your kid isn't, they're not even entering into this cycle?
Well, of course, if you don't want them to enter into the cycle, then you don't enroll them in school. Of course, I'm a home educator, so I advocate for children to be home with their parents. And by the way, home is a generalized term. I don't mean that children should stay inside the house at all times with their parents. That's not how that works. As a home educator, what I've discovered is that education is a lot more organic than we are led to believe by the people who make money running our schools, right? So we have been taught that school is education, where actually that's not the case. Education happens a lot more organically, and in fact, school sometimes is actually an impediment to education. So the easiest thing is to not enroll your children, but then, barring that, get involved, run for school board, be on the school board. I actually have an initiative that I'm trying to put through for school boards to be made up entirely of parents of children in that school, and all school boards to be local to every school, because it ought to be more locally managed. It should not be federally managed, and that's what Trump is thankfully trying to do, is to disengage the federal management of education, and it should barely be state managed.
It's as simple as that. By the way, I do want to play this clip from Loudoun County, because we really do have to remember how bad these things got. This was 2021, so this was not even that long ago. Let's play that.
Is wrong too. You are who you are. You cannot change that.
She's trying to disrupt things. She's trying to disrupt things. Let's continue on over here. Let's continue on.
So there you go. I mean, that's just 4 years ago. And, Sam, let's look at it from that perspective as well. This is how bad it's gotten, because we've completely abrogated in this country parental rights to the rights of the government in so many of these situations. And there you go, where this was remember, and for folks who don't remember the the story, Loudoun County, Virginia, this was a man whose daughter was sexually assaulted in her high school bathroom by a transgender student who had been passed from another school, where apparently he had another incident, and he was trying to speak. The school board told him not to, and then he was forcefully arrested.
Right. So this has been going on longer than we care to consider, frankly. But moving forward, let's not just let bygones be bygones. The parents that Parents Demanding Justice Alliance represents are people just like you and me, parents of school children who have been injured by their government. That is the thing that we have to start with, and turning that around is, to me, the most important thing. As a home education advocate, I know that the parental input is the most important thing in a child's education, in a child's upbringing. And the first step to turning this around, to uplifting parents, is to acknowledge that the government mistreated their parents and to lift them back up again and encourage parenting and families. And let's get back to the America that we used to have, that really the family was the foundation of our society. That's what we need to return to. And the best way, and by the way, that is the best case for the children as well. So if we just take that on its face, it's an easy layup for the president to take care of this. And it's a great start to making amends and going forward in strength.
How do you view the Department of Education's moves when it comes to this under Linda McMahon?
You know, you broke up a little bit. The Department of Education's views on what?
Oh no, how do you view the moves that they have been making?
Oh,
just in the couple
just the
months
moves
they've
so
been
far?
back.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
Yes.
very positive. Certainly getting rid of some of the department employees, and I'm sure these people are very qualified and won't have any trouble finding work elsewhere. But honestly, the Department of Education really doesn't have anything to do with the specific education of children. And if it did, the entire department should be fired immediately, because we've dropped to 40th among 40. So this is a good start, and they have a long way to go. But they are making progress. The funding is not drying up. The funding is simply being sourced to other avenues where it's already taking place. So really, we're just sort of cutting off some of the chaff, and there's a lot more to go.